Hey everyone, welcome back to Financial Education Sucks podcast. I am your host, Grant Raskin. I know it's been a little bit since we've had one of these, but I'm very happy to be back here today with a good friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Stillwell. Ryan is the principal of Stillwell Risk Partners. Really, his focus is on prevention first risk management coupled with commercial insurance. Ryan, welcome. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it, man. And I look forward to getting in some conversation with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to it.
No problem, man. So, Ryan, I know that in your line of work, right, everybody always talks about insurance and the needs and this and that. But one thing I think is a lot different with you since we've met is you really put a concentration on prevention first, right? I mean, that's one of the things that we talked about. We just introduced about that. Give us a little bit of history, man. Who's Ryan Stillwell? How do we get to where we are? I think our audience would love to hear about where you got to where you are today, how it all started, and then we'll kind of go from there, man.
Sure. So I've been in the insurance industry for 20 years. Nobody gets into insurance on purpose, right? So kind of went into it. My extended family owned an agency, and I worked there for 15 years before deciding that it was time to go out on my own. So naturally, I waited until there was a global pandemic before I quit my job to go out on my own. So, it was time to do something a little bit different. What we did at the old agency was much more transactional and pricing based insurance, right? It was generalist stuff. We do a little bit of everything for everyone. I always wanted to focus more on the commercial side. I always liked the educational aspect of what I did when talking to business owners in terms of their insurance, their protection, how to keep their business and their investment in it safe. And when I went out on my own, one of the things that I started learning was more about risk management, and had some good people give me some good advice and then kind of mentor me along the way. And today, what I like to do is work with small to mid-sized companies, typically in one of two areas. Usually they're on professional services side, or they're in the blue collar world, contractors, manufacturers. And the focus there is typically on preventing accidents and injuries before they happen, giving the tools and analysis to business owners so they can make informed decisions about where to put their safety investments and how to make their programs effective. And ultimately, the goal is to prevent people from getting hurt. And the nice benefit to that is everybody benefits, right? The person doesn't get hurt. I mean, the business owner has a more stable and productive workforce. So there's a lot of benefits from coming from that. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I know in the insurance world, just from friends of mine who are in it, and obviously conversation you and I have had, you've been able to help, friends and family of mine. So I do really thank you for that personally. But Ryan, I think a lot of people, when it comes to insurance, whether it's life insurance, obviously specifically in your area, property and casualty, everybody's always shopping rate, right? Like I just want to save money. I just want to save money, which we all want to do. But the reality of it is, and I think what makes you different is, and maybe you can get into this a little bit further with some of the programs that you offer on a free basis to people, right? Like even if they're not clients, I know you're offering these programs to these guys about really how to look at the risk that's taken on accidents, injuries, things of that nature in a company to help reduce obviously overall the premium. So can you kind of talk a little bit about, what programs you're working with? How do you help someone lower their cost of insurance, especially in these large companies that you're working on the manufacturing side and the blue collar world, things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you had mentioned it early on, like everybody shops for price, right? And this is a problem that the insurance industry, we've brought it on ourselves, right? Like all the marketing, the advertising that people do is like, save money on this. You can save 20 or 30%, whatever. It commoditizes the insurance product, which it is to a degree, right? I mean, there's a lot of automation that you can do from an underwriting standpoint. There's ways to get policies without ever talking to anybody, right? And that's for some people. If that's the approach and you're more concerned about price than coverage, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody can run their business the way they want to. Sure. However, getting away from that conversation is more difficult than it might seem, right? As insurance agents, we're kind of trained to take what the other guy did, copy it, and try and match it up as best as possible and see if we can get a better price, right? That's where a lot of insurance training comes in.
Sure.
And what that boils down to is people make decisions on surface level coverage limits and price, right? And they don't know the intricacies of the coverage because very few people take insurance as a college degree, right? Business owners don't want to learn the ins and outs of insurance, right? And who's going to blame them for that? So how do you build trust in a sales process where somebody's trying to make a decision, but it's very difficult for them to make an informed decision, right? So moving away from that requires, education first, right? And I know this is a big part of what you do, Grant, the education part, and communicating in a way that business owners can understand without having to have that insurance education, being able to understand why this policy form might be better than the other. And doing so requires trust, right? And in a sales situation, it's really hard to establish that trust. So what's important is, let me offer what I can to you. You can see the value that I provide to you in the work product that I provide. And if it makes sense for us to work together, then yes, we can take over the insurance for you. And there's a couple different ways that we can do that, especially in your blue collar markets. There's a lot of safety risk in those markets, whether you're an HVAC contractor or you're doing heavy highway construction, right? There's risk everywhere that you're in, whether you're climbing an 8-foot ladder or you're digging 20 feet underground, right? Keeping your people safe is paramount to you running a profitable business and having a good reputation, which go hand in hand. So what I like to do is like you said, I give away a ton of stuff for free. I'll touch on some of these and we can go into more detail if you want. Basically the 3 offerings that I have at absolutely no cost is an OSHA logs program. So there's a record keeping software that helps you stay compliant with the OSHA record keeping requirement. It fills out the OSHA logs for you. All you have to do is put in the information. It walks you through the entire process of whether or not it needs to be reported to OSHA, whether or not it goes on the OSHA logs or not. And you can track that data over time. Now, and that's where the real value comes in, right? Because when you track data over time, you can understand where the root cause of accidents come from. In addition, you can also use the software to track near misses and good catches, which are important data points in that process, because the near misses, you might have 10 near misses followed by one big accident, right? So part of the prevention is understanding the root cause of accidents and injuries, and this gives you that insight. Right? So anybody can have that. If you could be in California and I'm never going to get licensed in California, so I can't help you with your insurance part. You can have the software, because if it helps you keep your people safe, I'm all for it.
That's awesome.
The second program I offer is called Automate Safety. One of the big challenges with safety programs is that they're largely ineffective, right? You might have a safety meeting once a month or once a year, right? And because the once a month is better, right? Because you're staying on top of it, it's more frequent. But the once a year stuff, if you do a 2-day training seminar, a month later, how much of that information are you really retaining if it's not consistently reinforced, right? It's not a lot. So what we offer is a supplement to some of those safety programs that are already in place, or a good basis to start one. It's an automated safety training program, so it doesn't require a lot of time or effort to set up. We've got some pre-formatted templates, and we can customize things as well. You add your employee roster onto it, and they get a text message every 2 weeks. And it's a 5-minute article, different subjects. It gives them a 1 or 2 question quiz at the end to confirm they're actually reading it and engaging with it. And each individually, these things are not going to move the needle, right? But when you establish a top of mind safety culture and you do this with frequency, what's going to happen in the minds of these employees, right? They're going to say, okay, we do this every 2 weeks. We do this regularly. This has to be important. Even if you only give it half your attention, right? Some of that information is going to be retained. And some of that information, as you continue to move forward, will get repeated. And repetition is how we remember things, right? So it's not just a matter of, hey, always maintain 3 points of contact on a ladder. It's do things safely, because it's important to the company and it's important to you. And the danger is real in what we do, right? So, again, that's another free program. Anybody can have it. Happy to give it away. A lot of times with these programs, you might sign up for it and never use it. that's fine, you know, but this is designed for the people that actually want to use it. They want to put action behind the words of keeping their people safe, right? And then the third thing is a compliance check or gap assessment type of program. A lot of it is based in Department of Labor or OSHA compliance and regulation. And the reason we do it that way is it hits two marks by doing that. Number one, you're going to get some good compliance information, you know, in terms of what am I required to do? What could I get fined for? How do we design an overall safety program? It goes into all that, but it also gives you an assessment on where you stand in terms of how you're operating your safety program. So for example, let's say you did a lockout tagout assessment, right? What you want to do there is saying like, okay, we have practices around lockout tagout. They're kind of verbal. They're not formalized. This is what we typically do, but there's 30, 40 questions in that assessment. And we're going to say, okay, you're doing this really well. This is an area that might use some improvement depending on you know, what your primary goals are here, but there's a couple blind spots that we have for you. And if we address these, you're going to be in a much better position from an overall risk profile standpoint, right? So it's about addressing those things in actuality. And one of the great features about these programs that kind of gets back into that pricing conversation is when we're identifying root cause, when we're identifying how you are different from your competition, we de-average you from your competition in the mind of the underwriter. They personalize it. They look at your premiums, they look at your business as an investment, and they see all the work that you're doing, and they see it as a good investment, right? Now, this speaks directly to what you do. What makes a good investment? And insurance underwriters look at businesses as, are these good investments? Because I'm going to bet that you're not going to have a significant claim over the next 3 years that's going to exceed the amount of premium we collect, right? And that's how the underwriters get paid. So they have to justify a lot of their decisions, right? So this is how we get to differentiate your business from other people in the insurance marketplace. And you know, obviously, the safer your people are, the more productive your business is, and the better your bottom line.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's awesome, man. Because one of the things that I know you and I have talked about, it's about processes, right? And when you have a process in place, I mean, it's one of the things, you know, not to sit here and talk on myself, but it's one of the things that really helped me grow is just being able to formalize a process. And we talk with that a lot about whether it's on the insurance side or the investment side. If there's a process in place, whether it's coming to financial planning or figuring out a process, like you mentioned, to track OSHA certification and guidelines, right? To be able to take and provide some sort of safety course to your employees on more than just a monthly or yearly basis, right? Like I know a lot of the contractors that I work with, you know, it's probably every 6 months to a year. Hey, we have a security or a safety meeting, and you know, the guys are called in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're all still half asleep, and it's trying to get, you know, those guys to pay attention. But like you said, it's repetition, right? If I can just keep in front of them, and I can provide these programs to them, it's going to help them in the long run build, like you said, the investment that the insurance company wants to take. So kind of pivoting off of that a little bit, right? Like I'm a business owner. Let's say I have a manufacturing company. I got 100 employees, and I start to implement some of these programs that you provide, right? So here's Ryan. Ryan, you gave me some free programs. I'm putting some of the stuff into place. At what point is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 5 years that I can now go back to my, you know, insurance carrier? I can come to someone like you and say, hey, Ryan, listen, we've been doing X, Y, and Z. Where am I going to see that benefit? Like, obviously we all know premiums have been rising, and like you mentioned earlier, and I think it's kind of funny, right? Like it's your, you know, all the ones that you see on TV with the ads and stuff, like someone's got to pay for all that shit, right? So it's coming back into our pocket. But are you seeing an overall reduction in costs when owners are able to say, hey, here's what we've been able to work with, here's the tools that we use, and then moving that forward? Like how have you seen pricing then come in moving forward on that?
Sure. So there's short-term and long-term effects. So let's say you're that manufacturer with 100 employees, right? Your premiums might be 100,000, they might be $250,000 premium, right? With an account of that size, the way the underwriter looks at it, they're going to get 50 to 100 submissions like of those types of clients every month.
Okay.
They know they're only going to write 2 or maybe 3 if they're lucky of them. Right.
It's that small of a percentage, huh?
Yeah, it really is, because, a lot of, I don't want to get into a ton of detail about how the marketing process works.
We don't want to spill industry secrets here.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, like, this is a conversation I have with my clients all the time, but like, I don't know if it's the right fit for here, but, so they're only going to write 2 or 3, right? So a lot of their time is spent quoting and rating things, going back and forth with an insurance agent to make sure they have all the right information. And when you get an incomplete submission, when you get, a lot of that back and forth, those files tend to be on the bottom of the stack, right? So how do we get our clients to the top of the stack? We learn about their operations of their business, the types of things that they're doing that will improve them, acknowledgement of where there might be some gaps, right? And then, so instead of just giving a complete insurance application submission to our underwriter, what we do is we provide the risk assessment that we've conducted. We show them these are the things that we've identified as major exposures that need to be improved upon. We are currently doing X. In 6 months, we plan to do Y. In 12 months, we plan to do Z, right? Like, we give them a
game plan.
Yeah. Right? So we build, it's like planning, right? We make a risk management plan. Usually we set it for 3 years, right? So that we have an idea of where we can go going forward. And just because we have that set for the next 3 years doesn't mean that we can't change things and do things differently. But to have that long-term roadmap is the way you kind of navigate that, and it keeps you honest, it keeps you accountable. So when we do that, when we submit this information, the underwriter looks at it and goes, okay, well, this company's really different. They're really organized. It seems like they're dedicated to this. We want to win this account, right? So typically what will happen is, if we take over the insurance program, kind of, some of the work that we're doing, if you like the work that we're doing, we tend to want to take over the program and get you the same price or better, right? That's kind of the initial upfront. And a lot of times we can get better pricing. It's not guaranteed, right? But we're doing all this work for you. If you like the work that we're doing and it's better, it's more than what your current broker is doing, or, you talk to me 7 times in 6 months and you've talked to your broker once 30 days before your renewal, right? Does it make sense? Who does it make sense to work with more, right? And obviously the goal is to get our clients business. But there's no obligation to do that, right? And so that's immediate, right? Like, those are the short-term benefits. Long-term, we can continue upon that, right? So, we don't want to shop it every year, because underwriters have long memories, and then you get a reputation in the insurance market as a price shopper, and underwriters kind of roll their eyes at that bottom of the stack, right? So say we take 3 years and we've implemented a couple different things, and we can see that over time, the number of accidents and injuries you've had has decreased, right? Maybe you haven't had any actual injuries in the last 10 years, but you can see, hey, we had these amount of near misses. We've identified this root cause. This is how we've adjusted to control and mitigate it, right? You give that information to an underwriter and they will fight to keep your policy as long as possible, right? So in order to do that, they will continue to keep rates as low as they can. They'll credit your policies as much as possible. And then when it comes to take your insurance to market, which is still important to do every couple of years, you're in a situation where you've created an insatiable appetite for the insurance market for your business, right? So we go out to 3 or 4 carriers and we say, look at this client for the last 3 years. Look at what their plan is for the next 3 years. We want to get to X premium. Get us there and you can win the business, right? And you're only targeting certain carriers, right? You're not sending it out to everybody, so not everybody gets a shot, right? So you want a shot at this one? You better come with your best foot forward. We're not going to go back and negotiate with you about pricing. We want your best pricing up front, and we want to hit this number. The other part of what we do here is we show this to the client, right? So they know how we're submitting their business to the insurance company, right? Like, so many times you see somebody buy business insurance. Okay, great. Call them up. We spend half an hour, go over a bunch of questions. Okay, great. I'm going to take this out. I'll get back to you when I have numbers or if there's any additional questions, right?
Sure.
And then you get some back and forth. So yeah, when you hang up the phone, right? You have no idea what's happening on the other end, right? Yeah. It's like this big black box that nobody knows what's going on in, and out the other end comes a number, and hopefully it's a good number for you, right? We open up that and show them what the process looks like. So we draft a submission. We include a narrative about the business. We include a history of the business, where they've come from, where they're going, what problems they've had in the past and how they've addressed them, the risk management plan that we're conducting, and the assessments that we've done. And we show them, like, this is how we're presenting you to the insurance marketplace. We want your feedback on is this right? Is this correct? Is this honest? Is there anything we're missing? Is there anything we should take out? And then we show them, like, this is the pricing that we're asking for. We show them, like, this is how we present it. So it not only is there transparency in that, it builds a lot of trust, right? So and that's the goal. I don't want every client that I can have. I want the right clients that are going to invest in their people, that are going to keep their people safe. And this is the way that we do business. And if we're on the same page, we're aligned in that, it's a client for life, and we don't care giving away our secrets, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, right, that's the one thing I really think that you do different than so many insurance guys that I know, right? So a lot of guys who I've known met over the years, it's like, hey, just give me your information. We're going to submit it to 30 companies, and we're going to try and get the best rate that's out there. To watch someone like yourself, like I said, you've helped out my clients. You're currently working with some of my clients, and we go back and forth passing each other, business. But you take that extra step. It's not just let me put a package together, send it out to everybody. But I think the real thing that I want to hone in on and just reiterate is, like, the detail that you put in. Like you said, I'm not going to send it to 30 companies. It's going to go to 4. And it's going to go to the top 4 that are some of the best insurance companies out there for the specific market that you fit into.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think you find a lot of these guys just go out there and just throw these packages together. They throw it on a wall. Whatever shit sticks, and whatever doesn't, it falls off. But you also put yourself in a position where I want to be able to work with the right people, right? And I look at that a lot in my business as well. Is if I'm sitting here building relationships, if I'm sitting here educating someone, I want to make sure it's the right individual, it's the right person for the job, or for the client, I should say. So, I really value what you do, and I think it's awesome. But I know that there's 2 things I've always been curious about.
Yeah.
I run across it a lot, so I had to make sure I wrote these questions down. I want to make sure that we hit on them for you. One thing that I see a lot, and I'm sure we can go on a half an hour conversation, but if we can just let's just get a quick answer from Ryan here. So if our viewers or listeners out there are like, hey, I have a question about this. I see a lot of contractors that are keeping their company trucks on their personal insurance policies. Can you tell us a little bit about that, man?
Sure.
The downfall of doing that.
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, if you're a small contractor, right, and you own your own business, you don't have any employees, and you run your vehicle, as long as you tell the carrier about it, you're mostly okay from, like, a coverage standpoint. There are some gaps. Like, the biggest one is loading and unloading. So your car's parked, it's off, but you're unloading materials, and somehow property damage happens, somebody gets hurt. That's an auto insurance claim, and that's not included on personal auto, right? So that's just a clear coverage gap that exists. The other issue is your insurance company going to cover you, right? If you've got 3 or 4 trucks that are insured on a personal insurance policy, and you've got a bunch of people that aren't your family members driving it, are they listed on the policy? Are the trucks rated correctly? Are the trucks, do they have the vehicle wrap that shows who you are, right? And you're targeted because of that. If you get into an accident, you're more likely to be sued. You're more likely to be sued for more money. Do you have the right coverage limits in place? Is your insurance company going to cover you if they don't know that you're doing this stuff, right?
Right. So, thank you. And like I said, I know we can go on for probably another 5 hours on the proper way. But if you're listening out there, guys, and you're contractors and you have vehicles, make sure they're on your commercial policy. One other thing I wanted to touch base on, Ryan, with you is I see it a lot because, we've done work back and forth. I work in a little niche market in 401k plans. And with that, and our good friend Steph over in payroll, workman's comp, right? And having the right and proper coverage for that. Is that something you see that you come across a lot, where it's like people are just not aligned properly, the coverages are incorrect? How do you go about doing something like that? Because I know even here at a small firm like myself, even I have a little policy, right? So how do you go about looking at that, and what are some things or key factors that our listeners can look out for?
Sure.
when looking at things of that nature.
Sure. So workers' comp specifically is interesting because the policy coverage form is 6 pages long. It's the shortest coverage form in insurance, right? So honestly, the workers' comp coverage part is the least complicated part of it. So in brief, workers' comp gets split up into 2 sections of coverage. One is workers' compensation, which pays on medical expenses, lost time from work based on statutory laws set by the state in which the employee is injured, right?
Okay.
Second part is called employer's liability, which is if your employee sues you for negligence contributing to an injury or illness that's work related.
Gotcha.
So number one, having the right limits on the liability side is important. It costs next to nothing to upgrade from 100,000 to $1 million. So upgrade your coverage because it costs next to nothing. You're talking like $300 a year for most people or less. The other issue at hand is so from a coverage perspective, some companies, especially in the contracting world, you have to get a waiver of subrogation. This is all very standard stuff. Anybody who's writing these types of policies should be aware of it. Blanket waiver of subrogations are really easy to come by now.
Okay.
If you're leasing employees to others, there is a different type of coverage that you need to have applied there. And sometimes if you're doing like longshoreman type of operations or railroad operations, there can be some complications there, but they're kind of really niche and not really worth getting into at this point. I'd say the biggest misconception about workers' comp is that, especially in the small business market, is that it is a variable cost, right? It's not, the rates are not fixed unless you're in New Jersey. If you're in New Jersey, the rates are fixed, but but even in that type of situation, workers' comp is your most controllable insurance expense. If you're paying $1,000 a year, it is what it is, right? But if you're paying 50,000, 100,000 or more in workers' comp premiums, this is your most controllable expense because if you prevent injuries, you keep your experience modification rate low. Not only is that more appealing to the insurance companies when they're writing your business, not only it's more appealing when you're bidding on contracts, right? Showing a good safety program, but it also can credit your premiums 30 or 40% beyond getting the best rates already, right? So if you look at it, having a good safety record, having limited claims, and especially limited lost time claims, your experience mod could be well below 1. You can get a good size discount. But if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've seen experience mods above 2, right? So, and not only are you you're being charged twice the premium in that type of scenario, you're also with the highest rated carriers, right? So you could have a company that's paying $50,000 in workers' comp premium and a company that's paying $200,000 or more. They could have the same payroll in the same industry, right? It's the most controllable cost you have.
No, that's awesome, man. Those are 2 things that, like, when I come across clients, when I meet with people, that they ask me about, and I'm like, listen, go talk to Ryan because that's not my expertise. But listen, man, you provided us with a ton of information today, and I really appreciate your time getting on here and kind of giving us a background on yourself and things of that nature. But I always like to ask people, like, outside of insurance, outside of work, what does Ryan enjoy, man? Tell us a little bit about the family. That they got a couple kids, and I'm quoting here. We're working on the golf game. So
we're trying to work on the golf game.
So what do you enjoy outside, man? What do you like to do outside?
Yeah, so my kids are 8 and 6. We got a boy and a girl, and we're at great age right now to go out and do stuff all the time, right? So weekends tend to be occupied. We have a lot of stuff at night with the kids, their activities and stuff. Outside of that, I like to read. I read a lot of science fiction, actually, and a lot of nonfiction as well. So, I'm kind of a movie buff to a degree. Like to sit and watch the new movies and the old ones too. So, like golf is something I would like to be good at. It's something that I'd love to have time to do more. I am, like most other people, I'm not very good at golf, but I do like to play, and I'd like to get out more often. So
we'll get you there, man. We got you're in the right hands right now. We'll get you there. But no, man, listen, it's great. And again, I know you've been trying to get this set up, so I do really appreciate your time. I thank you for hopping on today. To our listeners, to our viewers, please, guys, check out Ryan. Check out his company, Stillwell Risk Partners. You can visit them online at stillwellriskpartners.com.
Mm-hmm.
Get some great stuff on there. again, take advantage of these programs that Ryan's offering you, because it's only a win-win at the end, right? I mean, here's a free service that we provide, or that Ryan provides, 3 free options that you have available to you. Take advantage of those, and then see what you guys can do for your business. Ryan, again, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you hopping here on an afternoon to hop on the Financial Education Sucks podcast. To our viewers, to our listeners, please like, subscribe, and do all that other fun stuff you're supposed to do on social media to get our rankings up there. But Mr. Stillwell, thank you, sir. I do really appreciate your time today, and thank you for being on here.
Thank you, Grant. Pleasure as always.
All right, guys, enjoy the day, and we'll see our listeners soon. Thank you.